Hey, welcome to Comic Talk Live, everybody.
What up, what up?
It's good to have our temporary whole crew back.
Right?
Temporary crew of
As
holes.
whole as it gets these days. Because some people are doing sports.
Yeah.
Sports.
Nah.
Physical stuff.
You know, we're the real nerds. Not those fake nerds.
We'll miss
Well,
you.
we're gonna talk about some of the better some of our favorite books this week.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Or some
I'm
of our
excited.
not favorite
It was a
books,
cool
just
week.
books that we all have.
We're just gonna talk about generic novels today.
Yeah.
That's it. Novel talk.
Novel
War and
Talk
Peace?
Live.
War and Peace.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's my favorite interior artwork.
So good.
Fuck that guy, Charles Dickens. That's all I have to say about literature.
I kind of like Charles Dickens. Is that bad? Is that
Yeah.
basic? Is that a
It is.
hashtag basic pick?
It is. Because, and here's why. Back then, you basically got paid by the word, so I feel like he's wordier than he needs to be for no damn reason other than just getting paid for it.
See, that's smart.
And that's how Hickman writes comic books.
Yeah, Hickman probably has it in his contract. Like every info dump I give, another check.
$10 a dump.
I feel like
Deal I have with Russ.
I feel like there's a better phrasing for that.
$10 a dump.
$10 a dump. That's how I advertise in the corner. $10 a dump.
Oh man, this is
Like
gonna
it's
be
a
a good
vibe,
show.
everyone.
This is what happens
Thanks
when we
for
do
hanging
late
out with
night.
Yeah. Which thank you for everyone for being here a little bit later. I know for me, like by the time the show ends, it's going to be my bedtime. And by bedtime, I mean like I am in bed. Like not just like time for me to get ready. Like I am in bed. But I'm glad I'm here a little bit later today.
Just brush your teeth on stream.
Just we'll slowly see Jennifer progress to get into bed. Just brush your teeth.
I'll just like bring the laptop over there with me and be like, "Here's my blanket."
Right. Yeah. Jennifer's like, I'll go to bed. Oh, as soon as the stream's over. Like, and I'm now just starting the stream when I'd be late.
All right, babies.
I mean, it is 11 o'clock my time. So by the time
Oh, yeah.
the stream is
You're
over,
late.
it'll probably be 12:31. It'll be
Ugh.
Well, let's get started then, guys. Let's
Let's
get
do it.
started with our first book.
Ooh,
That's cool.
Dark Knights of Steel. Ooh, you got the Harley Quinn.
Yeah, I'm going with the variant set. Although I think they stopped putting the artist on the barcode.
Oh.
I don't know why they would quit that. That was such a nice touch. Maybe it's temporary. Maybe it's just this issue, but I don't got the artist. I'm pretty sure this is also Joshua Middleton. Like the entire.
I mean, oh yeah, because
so far.
Does it not say in the interior?
Oh,
I feel
it
like
looks
on the B covers they've been showing.
I didn't look
on.
that.
Maybe
It's not like
not.
I read the damn book.
I mean, come on, that's asking too much.
That's him. That's Middleton.
Okay.
Dark Knights of Steel, number 4 out of 12. We're already a third of the way done with this series, you guys. How
that's
did
weird.
It's interesting because you know, I heard a couple people like they're, you know, here or there on it, and I heard the comments like, how are they going to stretch this story out for 12 issues? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you issue number 4. I mean, this was straight in origin telling story that honestly I didn't need or care about really that much. I've been enjoying Dark Knights of Steel. 1, I was kind of like, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. 2 and 3, I was liking where it was taking it. 4 just was a complete stop for me of just like, it's a retelling of Batman origin, Superman origin that it's interesting for this, I guess, to get the world's building, but I just didn't need it. Or I would rather it been broken up throughout a couple issues or something. Yeah. It just felt too much in one issue where I'm like, it was something like I was rereading something that felt very familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on it, you know, because it still was different.
I think the decision to have Bruce Wayne be related to part of the House of L
Mhm.
has kind of muddied the water a bit with this run.
Yeah.
And I like the idea on paper, but the execution has been a little iffy, especially in this issue, as you point out.
Yeah, like if you have to spend this entire issue not really getting into any action or not really moving moving the story forward, just to go backward a little bit, it doesn't feel authentic. I personally have seen the Batman origin story so many times. We know that his mom dies, his parents die, in a dark alley. There's crime involved, and I feel like we really didn't need that in this story. It's probably the worst Tom Taylor issue I've ever read, which is saying a lot, but I don't know. Tom Taylor's still such a fantastic writer that as a reader, I'm still just like, I'm still going to pick it up. This wouldn't be a deal breaker issue for me. But I, once again, did not need a Batman, Superman origin story, even if it's like medieval Batman.
Yeah, you shouldn't if you're doing a 12-issue series, in my opinion, you shouldn't have an issue that you literally can skip and not miss any of the story going forward. You could go from issue 3, I'm assuming, to issue 5 and not miss a beat, because you can put together the origin story in your own head. You might not be perfect, but you're going to get the gist of it, that Batman has pseudo superpowers because, Martha, the other Martha, hooked up with Jor-El, so you can. I didn't need a whole issue to tell me what I already knew, because we already knew that part, and it just played it out for me.
Counterpoint, though, I get the feeling that I like this issue a little bit more than the two of you.
Well, Jennifer said it was the worst Tom Taylor book she had read, so I'm assuming yes.
I'm higher than that. I think
that's saying a lot. He's a great writer, and I
Yes.
love pretty much everything that he does.
Correct.
This was not an issue I loved.
Right.
I think the vast majority of this issue was a Batman origin story, but there is a lot of other stuff layered in here. There's a lot of stuff going on with Constantine and continuing the conflict with the Black Lightning. I can't remember his Dark Knights of Steel name, but the other house in this story. We also get our first glimpse at the villain of this story, who I am intrigued by, because it is Green Lantern, but also Lex Luthor and also the Joker, all in one, which is intriguing. I'm a little cautious about that and the mixture of all three of those characters, who I love, but I don't know how I feel about all of them mixed together. Like Joker with a power ring sounds a little, I don't know. I'm not sure how well Joker as a character is going to fit into this world. I think they managed to make Harley Quinn kind of a nice court gesture, and she's almost like an interesting side character, and they made her style kind of fit in this world, but I don't know if Joker is necessarily going to have as easy of a time.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm still on board. I still really like this run, but I definitely don't like it more than
Sahad, whatever. I'm sure I butchered your name. I apologize. It's just for this series. Tom Taylor is giving Batman powers because Jor-El and Martha Wayne have an affair in this book. It's only for this is an Elseworlds tale that they're doing it. So you don't have to be a DC guy to know that, because it doesn't really exist in DC, just in this little mini series.
I tried to even read it I'm trying to read this issue from the point of someone who would maybe have zero knowledge of DC, and I still feel like the backstory that we've already been given is enough, where this felt like unnecessary.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't for me. Again, I'm still going to pick it up because I like the other issues. I am hoping this isn't going to be a trend of, that we get 2 more issues moving the story forward, and then we're going to step back for an issue and do a whole nother, dump of origins from other characters that we don't know, the $10 dumps.
I get the sense that Tom Taylor has a lot, at least the feeling I get from this book is this world feels really big, but we're not really exploring a lot of it. We're getting kind of like a beef between 2 families, and that's sort of it. it would be nice. It would make this really feel like a true epic fantasy series if there was a map in the back, or if we got a sense of the wider world. And I think if Tom Taylor wants to, and if DC lets him, I think there is. I would like to see a volume 2 of this explore a different part of this world or some other element, because this story is shaping up to be a lot more intimate and close than I would have guessed.
Well,
and
yeah, go ahead.
And no matter how Tom Taylor wraps it up, I still think that there'd be plenty of breathing room in order for, if Tom Taylor didn't do it, say someone else took over. Like, maybe I'm one of the rare few that really love Gail Simone's like Red Sonja run. So I think that like Gail Simone could even take over and do like Birds of Prey of Steel or something like that, and like maybe tie something like that in. So it's maybe not necessarily Tom Taylor ruling this universe, because I think it could end up having that like Game of Thrones epicness of it for sure.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people compare it to Game of Thrones. It's easy to DC and Game of Thrones, but even in Game of Thrones, it's been a while since I've seen it. But like, I feel like every episode though, we're spending time with the different camps a lot more. Like we have. I think why Ryan, you were like, I'm so intrigued because we got more of Constantine and that kind of realm. We got like a page of that in this book, and that's like felt a lot more because we haven't gotten to spend much time with Black Lightning's clan that they have, and their whatever their tribe is going to be called, or in this DC metal world or steel world. And I think it would be a lot more beneficial if we got away from Batman and Superman a little bit, and that tribe, and go into the other worlds a little bit more and expand it, because it feels like this should be such a huge world, and it feels so tight because all we're doing is spending time on Batman and Superman like DC does. And but like, if you're going to go all in, and I think spread out the world, put a map in, like you said, but let's see some of the other people a little bit more in depth, at least in even if it's, at least give me that as an issue. Like, if we're going to go away from the story for a little bit, go away from Batman and Superman side and go see Black Lightning's, their crew a little bit more or whatever, or, where's my Darnell, the dragons, and where's that? Is that the Birds of Prey? Like, come on. Like, I like that idea. Like, but let's expand the world a little bit more. You have 12 issues and it feels like it's very contained so far.
Yeah. We're already a third of the way done. So I'm not sure how much farther, how much more the scope can expand.
I have a feeling, though, the way that Tom Taylor writes, even though issue 4 was probably my least favorite, I know issue 5 will end up being like my favorite issue ever. Like, it'll just completely opposite side of the spectrum. The way that Tom Taylor writes, I trust him as a writer so much that in almost any other series, I'd be like, this would be the one where I drop this from my pull list. But with Tom Taylor, I'm like, I have so much faith that I'm like, issue 5 is going to be fantastic.
Yep.
Speaking of fantastic,
ooh, look at that YouTube segue.
Learn from the best. We're going with the final issue of Fantastic Four Life Story for our next book this week. This is one of my favorite variants I've had in a while. I really like the variant cover for. Actually, I think for most of this run has had good variants, but this cover I quite enjoyed. Also, the stuff inside is pretty good too.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, I really like this book.
Did either of you read the Spider-Man life story?
Not yet.
I started it, but never finished it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I never did, and I just, obviously I picked it up because of the name attached to it. I pick up a lot of Mark Russell stuff, which is hilarious because this is the least Mark Russell book of a Mark Russell.
Yes.
There's still its moments, but it's this has been a really fun series, and and it's been helpful for me because I have not read a lot of Fantastic Four books. I mean, it's sad to say, probably my knowledge of Fantastic Four was like the 2 movies and then the documentary of the movie that never saw the light of day. Like, that's my Fantastic Four world. So this was nice to kind of explore it a little bit more. I
agree. And you got, because the way that Fantastic, or not just Fantastic Four, but how a lot of these stories are written. You know, they've been around since the 50s and 60s and continuing on, and it does like retcons and, you know, what has actually happened, or like where are we at in the storyline. So I feel like these life stories, the way that they break down the decades, really help to put the characters not just in that decade, but where are they in that life. And with the end of this one, or sorry, so with issue 6, they are in the tens, so it'd be in the last decade, and it ages them, so they would actually be the age that they would be if they were the ages that they were in the 60s when it started. And I think this wrapped it up really, really nicely. And I don't want to spoil it, but there were so many great moments, especially with, oh my goodness, what's his name? And his son.
Reed and Franklin. Is it Franklin?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That I thought just were absolutely fantastic, literally fantastic. And once again, I'll say it, like, even though, you know, I love Jack Kirby, I hate Fantastic Four actually, but I loved Fantastic Four life story. It was fantastic.
Fantastic.
I think Fantastic Four has had good moments throughout the lifetime. I guess like every comic, it's got ups and downs. I actually read quite a lot of this on Marvel Unlimited, like from Stan Lee up through the entire John Byrne run up into the 80s or something. But this one, it really hit me, man. Like, especially the ending of this book. It got me in the feels in a way that few other comics have. Like, it just ends on such a small, intimate scale, and like, it's very touching. This any good Fantastic Four story is at its core about like family and people's relationships with their loved ones, and that's really at the end of this entire like epic galaxy spanning series. That's really what these 6 issues kind of boil down to. And it was good. I think in only a way that Mark Russell could have made it good too. Like really zoomed in on what makes this group of weirdos tick.
Yeah, and it had one of my favorite panels, because you have the Stark retirement home or whatever it's called. But I'm just gonna show this bad boy up right there. Well, homage of Captain America punching a Nazi, but it's Dr.
Oh, okay, yep.
And it's classic, like that they threw that in there. I was just like, well done.
Yeah.
It was cool, to see not just the Fantastic Four grow up and get old, but having them talk to the rest of the wider Marvel universe to kind of come together and stop Dr. Doom, and seeing a really old Captain America like come out of retirement to fight a fascist was special.
Well, and they kind of almost like dogged the young group. They're like, I don't know if they can do this, so we got to come out of retirement one last time.
Yeah, Riri Williams and Miles don't really have this one, so we'll take it.
But
I think it also, this series from the beginning has done a really good job. I think one of the reasons why I don't love Fantastic Four is because of the way it's always treated the Invisible Woman, and that's as if she is invisible. And I think that they're not just in this issue, especially in this issue, but in previous issues, it really does show the more like humanness, the fully lived life and experience of the Invisible Woman in a way that it never has, and showing her as a person in this that was an equal contributor, even though she was maybe put on the sidelines more often than not. I really loved that conversation that I had with the Invisible Woman as well.
I mean, I'm aware of Fantastic Four history enough to know a little bit like that. I know she did have her fling with Namor, or in the comics was like, I thought, however, they addressed that within, I think, issue 2 or 3 here with this. It was very much like you heard her speech at, like, it was like at the UN or whatever she was talking about, and like she like was empowering the people in that speech, and in the moment she's like, oh snap, I gotta empower myself in this moment too, to stand up for myself. So like I don't even know like how it was handled in that aspect, but in the older comics, but I thought how they handled her leaving Reed in issue 2 or whatever was the way to do it.
Yeah, that might be my favorite issue of this series was the one that focused on her and really
Yeah.
told, because they directly addressed that in her narration. Like, I've always been the invisible one. I don't matter. And dealing with those themes, I think, head on was really part of why this series worked so well.
Yeah.
And no, you're not wrong about Daredevil, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see what life story they will do next.
If you could choose one, what would it be?
Ooh.
I think, even though they're not my favorite comic, I think an X-Men life story would be pretty cool.
I feel like if they did an X-Men life story, it would need to be 12 issues, and it would need to be like going back and forth. No, I'm just kidding. I do think it would need to be longer than 6, but
X-Men life and death of Wolverine story.
I think they would have to focus. They would have to just focus in on the original team then, because it's going to be so convoluted to try. And obviously you can throw in other characters here or there, but I think you're going to have to.
What if they did like an X-Men life story and each issue focused on a different team? Like maybe even if they did have like one issue that was like Alpha Flight, or and then obviously ending on like the Hickman run, or
yeah, no, that would get way too. I was thinking just maybe the original team, and then at some point you introduce the giant size team.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, I don't know.
All of them. Because once you get too far in the future, X-Men goes all over the board.
I feel like we already got X-Men life story with all the movies, because we got young Charles, we got old Charles, we got Days of Future. Like, I feel like we've kind of gotten a glimpse of that. So I don't know. I feel like maybe I know they're heavy on everything Daredevil right now, but like that'd be interesting. That'd be a very interesting take of, because obviously you have him going through with his blindness, but that would be the part where for me, the crux for Daredevil is always his Catholic guilt, like that they utilize it, and how does that shift and change, because I feel like he's always caught in the same place, so they can play with it in the same world and kind of go back and forth with that trope a little bit more, but almost go farther of, okay, how was it now 10, 20, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, and see how if it adjusts, or if it changes, or if it lingers, or if he, whatever it is. I think I'd be, now I'm talking myself into it, I think I'd be curious to see that more, because I feel like it could be a simpler story to tell, where I feel like X-Men would have too many moving pieces and you could bring in stuff from, but
I would like to see Daredevil grapple with the effects of aging and not being able to get out and fight crime, and
what his senses be, they
would decrease over time.
They would decrease as he gets older.
Accept that.
Ooh, and what if he was like offered like an eye surgery or something? And
now we're talking.
Yeah,
this is a good question.
Yeah.
How did the life story series differ from the Grand Design series? I've only read X-Men Grand Design.
Yeah.
I have not read the Grand Design, so I couldn't tell you.
I feel like it focusing on the decades, and then the artwork tells more of a singular story kind of flowing without, where in my opinion Grand Design was a lot more focused on the artwork and like stylistically bringing it together, rather than like this is more story focused than art focused. That's probably the only thing that I can say.
My feeling with Grand Design, at least I've only read X-Men Grand Design too, but they took all of the continuity that ever happened and crammed it into like as small of a series as possible, and told you this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, and it was a straight like almost encyclopedia retelling of the events that happened in a very brief but informative and still entertaining manner. Whereas Life Story is almost like a Elseworlds kind of thing, where the beginning is the same, where it starts the characters off in the correct time period, and it, for Fantastic Four, they go to space, they get their powers, they come back to Earth, but then they age in real time. Each issue each issue is a decade at a time. So by the time you get to the end, it's a fresh, completely different thing.
And maybe this is a plug for it, but there's Hulk Grand Design that's coming out within the next couple of weeks.
I'm excited for that.
Ooh.
Hope to learn a lot about Hulk that I don't know.
Yeah, he smashes.
Yeah, he does.
And he has anger management problems.
So we're doing one of the books that I'm not on next, I believe.
Yes. Which is surprising that you're not on this.
It's not my fault, man. Our shop only got the variant covers, and I subscribed to the main one.
Just steal one of the variant covers.
All we had was the Spanish edition. All the leftovers we had.
We're doing AWA Upshot. I think it's pronounced Primos. Is that?
Yeah.
And I'm noticing a trend of like actors.
Take a bathroom break anyway.
Actors that are writing comics now.
Is one of these is Al magical?
Al is he's been like a side actor in a lot of different movies and stuff. So like you got your Patton Oswalt. You know, I just saw that Snoop Dogg is doing a comic with Rodney Barnes.
So I have to kind of do this plug really quick. So tomorrow night over on Comic Chop News, I will be interviewing Rodney Barnes. And this was planned way before Tales from the Crypt was announced with Snoop Dogg. Rodney Barnes does not know that I'm actually a really big fan of Snoop Dogg, and that like high school white ass Jennifer living in Florida was obsessed with Snoop Dogg's biography when I was like 13 years old. I cannot wait to talk to Rodney Barnes about Tales from the Crypt. Sorry. So,
I mean, me and Mrs. Beard have seen Snoop Dogg in concert twice.
That's amazing. But yeah, speaking of like people who are writing, even John Leguizamo did, what is it called? Primex.
Okay. And then you had what, Dan Fogarty or whatever was writing for like heavy metal, I think, or one of those. Patton Oswalt. You've got a lot of these, you know, that actually
basically writing Berserker.
Yeah. But this is everything I think Ryan would love in a comic. It's AWA. Basically, is it set up in a Mayan culture? Is that correct? So it's basically a Mayan culture retelling of Green Lantern, in my opinion.
Oh, he's like, damn it, I need to learn Spanish.
I knew I should have read the Spanish one. Yeah.
I mean, that is, as soon as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a Ryan book through and through. And I'm holding it like this, but it was definitely it was digital. But it is it's a story of it's a 4-issue story. You have it starts out with our 3 superhero kind of characters on there, and it goes into the origin story of the young protagonist, how he got his powers, and it then follows him along the rest of the way. Like it's a like, hey, here's what we're fighting right now for the first 4 pages. Then it goes into his story, and you don't see the other characters the rest of the issue.
Yeah, and I really loved how not only this sets like this is setting up a pretty big world, and I could see this getting a second volume pretty easily because already within the first quarter, so this is the first issue of 4, we're already seeing this pretty cool world that's being set up, and not only are you seeing it set up with, say, you're seeing that this young man is taking kind of the legacy of like his culture and his heritage, but it's also a story about family because he's got to take care of his little brother. So you're seeing like that aspect of family, and he's kind of a bad kid, kind of partying a little bit at the beginning, and then it's like, okay, well, now I've got to step up and take care of my brother. So you're also seeing that, like, I don't know. I really enjoyed this. Definitely will be. I went ahead and like already put this on my pull list. And I don't know if everyone will read this single issue by single issue, but if they keep doing the $9.99 first volume trades, I think that this will be one of my most suggested books for maybe new readers, especially for. I think that there's a lack of Latin culture in comic books a lot of times. So the fact that they did release the single issues in Spanish, I think that would be a really great opportunity for maybe people who, I've been in my comic book shop and parents have come in saying like, hey, my kids want to learn Spanish. Do you have any Spanish comic books? And so I'm really glad that this is for them, because I think that it's young enough. where younger kids can relate, but it does have maybe like there's drinking and maybe kind of drugs involved, but who cares? Kids have seen worse at this point.
But it's got a green power, aliens, spaceship, and mind. I mean, it's just as a slap in Ryan's face that he didn't get to read this yet.
I'll get there.
Yeah, really good. Would highly, highly recommend.
Did I hear you talking about Snoop Dogg when I went to the bathroom?
Yes,
You did.
So because Snoop Dogg they just announced Snoop Dogg's doing a comic with Rodney Barnes.
Oh.
Called Tales from the Crypt. Yeah. And I had to plug, and I'll go ahead and plug again. So tomorrow, over on Comic Chop News, we're just planning on talking to Rodney Barnes and interviewing him about the 3rd volume of Philadelphia and Nita Ha's Nightmare blog. But little does he know that I was actually obsessed with Snoop Dogg, and I can't wait to talk to him about this. So we'll be talking to him tomorrow on Comic Chop News about it.
I also quite enjoy Mr. Dogg.
Snoop Dogg.
But that's because
so
Jennifer and I are on the West Coast.
You know,
got to represent.
West Coast.
And in the back of a letter from the creator of from Al, it says that he learned, some of his style from his time on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart and stuff. So we were just talking about how it's interesting how many just like actors and actresses are starting to get into writing comics a little bit
Is
more.
that okay? That explains some of the recent comments that I was confused about.
Yeah, Mother of Madness. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
One of my least favorite books of 2021.
I was a little bummed out that
I did not read it. I did not look like I was going to be one I'd like.
Bullet.
I don't think it was that bad, but it wasn't good.
So, but now you're caught up. And speaking of getting caught up, why don't we get caught up in some spider webs?
Oh my god,
get tangled up.
It wasn't as good as
transition. All right, I don't do transitions. That's your job.
Clearly.
So we got ASM 88. I don't think we've ever talked about Amazing Spider-Man on this show yet for the last 2 years. So I think when we were all on it, we're like, we should just talk about ASM. But
I want to preface this with, I have not read Spider-Man 1 through 87, so I was really lost. My comic book shop, when I went in, they're like, hey, we think this is like a speculator book, Jennifer, and we took them all off the shelf and held one for you if you wanted it. It's apparently a new character. And I'm like, give me Queen Goblin. And I have no clue what's going on, but I liked the pretty ladies.
Yes, Queen Goblin.
I guess it's a new character. So is it really a spec book? Is it?
It's worth a little bit. I looked it up on eBay the other day. It was going for like 15 or 20, I think.
Oh wow. Well, there you go, gang.
I don't spec on stuff, so I personally got the vibe after reading this issue that this character is extremely temporary. I didn't get any feeling that this is going to be a long-term villain of any kind. This is very strange. It's not my favorite issue of the Beyond story arc, which I have actually kind of enjoyed in spite of myself.
I have not enjoyed the Beyond series as much, so I hopped on this when they started this arc. So it was what, issue 70 something. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I got behind on it, so I literally I pulled a Ryan and read, I think, 9 straight issues of ASM this week to play catch up, because this is one of those stupid books that has been coming out weekly. And I just got so behind on it that I wasn't like, well, I'll read it. And then it was so daunting of a task, like, oh, I got to read 5 books before I can read this one. Then I was like, no.
They read quick.
They do.
But I just enjoy that it's different. Maybe because I did read all of 75 whatever issues of the Nick Spencer run. And that was a little bit more Spider-Man classic, I guess. Peter Parker in costume going up against villains we're familiar with. I'm enjoying how different this story arc is with Ben Reilly and Peter Parker, kind of not necessarily both being Spider-Man, but both of them being focal characters. I'm enjoying the Beyond Corporation itself and the clearly suspicious, sketchy CEOs and untrustworthy completely top to bottom in my mind. They're red flags all over that place. So clearly this is not going to last. So I'm enjoying this, this ride to see where we go from here. This Queen Goblin stuff is not my favorite part of this story arc. Just gonna say that.
I think it also for me is because it's coming out weekly that I'm pretty sure they have different creative teams for different parts of the story, like artist and even writer. Like, I feel like they've jumped around with the writer on this series. I don't know how that, because it started, I want to say like when this run started, it was an all female creative team on the first couple issues, and then now it's like Zeb Wells is on it, but there was another writer in between it that they wrote. So like I think when I'm reading it all back, now in just like a 2-day sitting or it was a 1-day sitting of reading it, it felt a little disjointed, I think, because it was different writer, different artists and things. And they have tie-ins and I'm not reading. And I feel like they kind of will lean into like the Black Cat Mary Jane tie-in. They did a Beyond tie-in that I did read accidentally of the 2 female characters that were helping Ben. I don't even remember, like the 2 female agents or something earlier. They haven't been in it lately, but it feels like it hasn't been consistent for me. And I think that shouldn't be the case for if you're going to put out a weekly book like Detective Comics is doing right now. It feels very formulaic. Like this is how it's like, it's taking you on a journey, like a story that's, being told by someone in a vision. This feels a little disjointed to me.
Mm-hmm.
I see what you're saying. I do think they are trying to lean into the fact that they have such a wide writing staff by showing like some issues are going to focus on Peter, some issues are going to focus on Ben Reilly, some issues are going to focus on Mary Jane, some issues are going to focus on the various players in the Beyond Corporation. So we are getting different. I'm assuming they're putting each of these writers to handle each of these different groups within this overall story. And obviously, I'm assuming they're also communicating with each other and touching base and building towards something in a shared way. But I think for me, what really bumped up my tolerance level for this run is knowing that very soon it will be a new #1 with a new creative team, and everything is very clearly going to go back to normal in short order. So I'm willing to accept this different kind of story, see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's going to be a fun story, but it's not like one I'd like, oh, this is a Spider-Man trade you need to go check out, No. So for me, I'm just like, I'm a little bit like burned out on it because I'm dropping $4 a week every, and it's a 12-issue series, and it's like, man, I have not. If it's coming out weekly, I want to love it.
Yeah,
to me,
which is why I'm so grateful for Detective Comics.
Right, because I feel like that has been one we've never actually, I don't think, talked about Detective Comics on this show yet of the 12-issue, but we talk about it all the time on this.
Yeah, and that even changed artists this week too. There's Ivan Rice is taking at least a 1-issue break. He's not drawing this one.
Okay,
I don't care.
Yeah,
it's the thing. The writer stays the same, so it's definitely got that through line that the Beyond Spider-Man story is missing, but
which helps. So I'll be interested. When's a new ASM series starting? Because I know they're gonna start it as a #1, which I know Mars loves when Marvel does that.
Was it in the last previews catalog or the current one? I can't remember. So a month or two.
I think it was the last one because it's the current one because I think like I don't know when it come out because I feel like a lot of people were talking about because that's what John Romita Jr. is.
I think it's going to be March.
Okay.
If this is Legacy number 889, then knowing them, they'll probably make it number 900 or near number 900 will be the new #1, and they'll make it $10. It'll be a whole thing.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Marvel. But our next book, Ryan, you're not on.
Which sucks because Jennifer left.
But Jennifer is. So let me get that up anyways here. What else? Well, before we jump into that, what else have you been reading then that's not on our list?
We're not talking about Geiger this week, are we?
No, that was the 80-page. I actually was gonna get it and I didn't get it. Did I miss out?
I think so. It depends on how much you loved Geiger.
I liked Geiger. I think I saw the price tag and I was like, do I want another 80th? Because they already did a big 80-page special, didn't they? Or a little bit.
Nocterra did.
I feel like Geiger did one too recently, like a couple months ago.
Geiger's been MIA. The last issue 6 of the main series was an extra $1. That was a $5 book.
Well, it was a thicker boy, right?
It was a little bit thicker, yeah, but it wasn't like unnecessarily big.
Okay.
If you liked Geiger, this is a necessary anniversary. It's not like a stupid Batman one where there's 10 different random stories.
Right.
That don't matter.
I'll go back and get it then. So
If you're into Geiger, then this is worth reading.
because I liked it. I like Geiger. But we stalled. Now Jennifer's back, and we can move on to the Chicken Devil.
This was the final issue. I mean, I think at the end it was like to be continued or like the end ? I really liked where this series started. I don't know if I liked where it ended.
I loved where the series started. It has to be the end of the first arc, because if it's not, it is the most rushed, cut off ending I have ever read in a comic book.
Yeah.
Like it was like, hey, here's going. Like I had read this and I read Primos on digital just because I didn't want to go out to my store, my indie store, to get them, because I wasn't driving in this weather because we're snowed in basically, and my local shop didn't get them, and I hadn't ordered. But that's neither here nor there. But I was reading it and I'm like, oh, it stopped. Like that was very abrupt.
Yeah. I think that Aftershock, some of the recent Aftershock books have kind of done that recently, where like I know I was expecting maybe 5 issues, but I guess where else could you have gone with Chicken Devil? And it did say the ending for now, and then in the like author, it did say there will be more, but I feel like I needed a 5th issue, whether that was like just another issue after this, or whether that was just fleshing out a little bit more what happened, and then I could have just stopped there completely.
Yeah. I've enjoyed this series. I liked where it went. I don't know if it's a world I need to spend more time in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it got its comparisons to Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's Punisher, Breaking Bad, all those kind of mixed into one. I appreciated how they made him still he kind of was like a bumbling assassin in this. Like he didn't automatically I mean, in the very first issue, his wife and kids get killed, and like he owns a chicken shop, fast food chicken shop. Like, so that's a Breaking Bad comparisons if you haven't read Chicken Devil. And then he goes around in his chicken mascot costume to hide and tries to kill the people that killed his family. And he stumbles around finding his way. He still does some smart stuff. Don't credit where credit's due, but he's not like a perfect trained assassin, which I was glad. I appreciated that aspect of the writing. Aftershock usually is 5 issues. So this was a little weird that it was like, oh, because that's always my knock with Aftershock books. Usually I feel like the stories always feel rushed because it seems like the writers don't know if they're going to get to tell more stories because they have that 5 issues. So like, that's why you have we had issues with Join the Future or, Scout's Honor that people said felt rushed. And I think that's because the writers know they're given this window. So like for them to give them only a 4 issue, I was like, holy buckets. Like I think it needed another issue to stretch out the story a little bit. And then that could have wrapped up completely. I don't know if I want to dig into this world moving forward more. No. But I love Hayden Sherman's art on this. We haven't talked a lot about art this week, but I think it's a unique style. Hayden did the art for Image on Thumbs, which you either love or don't love that style. And I thought it fit the story really well.
Especially the kinetic artwork, but then focusing on the characters. I'm trying to find a good page in here that, I mean, not necessarily that it's spoilery, but I mean, I don't know. I just blowing you up.
Yeah.
I would actually the artwork the artwork in this, and maybe a little bit has to do with the difference in coloring, but I also feel like I liked the coloring in this better than I did Thumbs.
Okay, because Thumbs was all black and white with then like a pink, a pink accent. Yeah, it allowed it to be different. So, and I mean you're right. At the end, it says that in his letter he says we got more Chicken Devil cooking up. So I'll probably check out the first issue to see if they wrap up this a little bit more of the next arc and see if it is maybe it is a world I want to get into more, but I just feel like this is one where it's like I was craving more Scout's Honor or Join the Future. I'm like, I want to see where those stories go even more because it was more. This felt like it could have been a more contained story.
Yeah, because there's not a world that like I don't need a whole world behind Chicken Devil. Like I don't need to know like a lot of backstories. I don't need to know about some maybe secret organization, whatever they could do. I don't need to know any of that to enjoy Chicken Devil. But I feel like in books like Scout's Honor or Join the Future, there's like layers to peel back.
Yeah.
There's not layers with this. It just face value, it is what it is. I hope that if they do a first issue, they do a $9.99 first issue. Aftershock like doesn't do that. They're all like $16.99 for the first volume. But I hope that because it's only 4 issues, they make it a cheaper read.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I mean, it's the same thing you get with all your other revenge stories, right? Like Taken was a hit, so people are like, oh, let's get more Taken. Okay, I don't need the Russian mob boss's twin brother now coming out to get but that's where it's going to feel like that's the only way they can go with this story is okay, you've killed this Russian mob and now this brother from Russia comes over and hunts you down and now it feels like it's going to be the same cycle that repeats it. Doesn't need to when you have these types of revenge stories.
Agree.
So
I'm kind of not regretting skipping Chicken Devil. I read the first issue at the shop just because it was there. I never went beyond that, but I don't feel like I'm missing much. Aftershock in general lately I haven't really been on board with. I kind of dropped like I used to get a lot of Aftershock books, but not really so much the last few months.
Yeah, I haven't had very many the last few months even to pick up.
So
I will say really quick, just while we're on the subject of Aftershock and we talked about Scout's Honor, David Pepose, who one of us has interviewed, and so who did Scout's Honor, which was a really great book. I enjoyed it. Is going to be doing another book, a Conan book, right? Conan.
No. Is Conan on? He's doing a new Savage Avengers.
Savage Avengers. Thank you.
So I don't know if I forget who's. I know Black Knight's on the team. I know Electra Daredevil is on the team. The Electra Daredevil, not Daredevil.
Okay. Not both of them, but Lady Daredevil.
Lady Daredevil. I forgot what they called her. Yeah.
Sure.
But I think Black Knight, and I forget who else is on the team. But yeah. So that was exciting that they're announcing that. I'm excited.
That's cool.
I was reading the previous Savage Avengers. I kind of just dropped off because I was trying to cut stuff. But I think I lasted like 16 issues on it. So like I was there for a while. I know Will was a big fan of that series. But yeah, man, it'll be fun.
Are you going to be interviewing David?
We haven't talked because usually I've interviewed him twice and it's been for his Kickstarters, the OZ. The OZ, and then we did it, I guess it was for right before Scout's Honor. I interviewed him about that, but Ringo Award win with the OZ, so that was big, and now he's writing Savage Avengers on Marvel. So, but I still want just more Spencer and Locke. That's all I care about. I
talked to him at Comic-Con, and you recommended I pick up that trade. I texted you. I was like, "What trade should I get?" I'm talking to Pepos, and he was like,
because he does. So I'll be interested to see where he does with this take of Marvel properties, because David Pepos is known for like taking two genres you love and mashing them together. Like Spencer and Locke is Calvin and Hobbes and Sin City. Going to the Chapel is like Die Hard and a romantic comedy. Like it just is like So it'll be interesting to see what he does with like a Marvel property, like with established characters and things like that. So I'm here for it. I'm having fun.
Speaking of mashing two things together,
Like a crossover.
there we go.
That was a solid transition. I would
was
say
waiting
a
the whole
solid
time
blood
for you to
transition.
mention that.
Blood.
That still hasn't showed up in here. You guys think that's coming?
So sad. It needs to.
Still coming.
Why did that comic book get made?
That's the thing. That's the thing, is because they were saying Solid Blood 17. It's like we have this random issue, random issue laying in like a warehouse somewhere, and it's issue 17. And then nothing happened with it. And in the back, in the creator's story, it literally talks about not time jumps, but like time travel and like the Mandela effect. And if you look in Solid Blood 17, Donny Cates is listed as the marketing director for Image Comics.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
I'll pass. I didn't enjoy that book so much.
It wasn't supposed to be enjoyed at all because there's nothing to it.
It was fun. It was fun. And
Solid Blood 17 is a crossover, and eventually it will be revealed.
And
Donny Cates, talk to me.
But in the meantime, the actual crossover, issue number 11.
Is this the only time I got the variant and none of y'all didn't?
I've been on cover A for this one the whole time.
Well, I usually am, but my shop sometimes just gives me the cover Bs, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, I only got cover A.
I don't remember this happening in the book, though. Any kind of dramatic lightsaber fight with our two leads.
Does anything that ever show up on a comic cover ever happen in the book? Like, I mean, that's been a trope since the 70s that they're like, oh, I'm going to pick up this issue. Oh, wait, it has nothing to do with what was on the cover. I feel like that still happens.
I really liked this book. I'm enjoying the direction crossover has taken. Like, for me, I didn't hate the first story arc, but it was very it was cool, and it was interesting and unique and fresh at the time. But seeing what they've done in the 5-6 issues after the end of the first story arc, I think this book has gone in a completely better, different direction than they were initially doing. And I enjoy this chapter of this overall story much more than the kind of generic adventure that the first trade was, more or less. I don't want to say generic adventure, but it was definitely like, we need to get to the dome. Let's go to the dome. And what wacky hijinks can we get into along the way?
Yeah, it feels like the first arc was setting up for more of an adventure, that now this arc is saying like, we're kind of, now it's layered. I don't know if I would appreciate this arc as much if I didn't have that first arc.
Yeah.
To set up that story. So I get it and I appreciate it. I also think the biggest issue with the first arc with crossover we've talked about on the show was Donny Cates himself. I think Donny Cates was hyping up certain issues and certain reveals that if you're a diehard comic fan, they might have hit you in that where you're like, yes, let's go. But
like issue 3, it was specifically solicited as if you don't buy this issue, you may go mad.
Yeah.
And now knowing what the reveal was, it was like, I agree.
It was like, oh, it's Mad Men. I consider myself a comic, well-known, versed in comics. I didn't know who it was, and I just read the paybacks earlier, so like I knew that, but no one knew the payback. So like now it's getting to the point too where the reveals are a little bit bigger now, and I think people will get more excited because it's a lot more general. So it's a little bit of dying of like, hey, stop hyping it, because that'd be like me like doing a crossover book with Marvel, and like I'm like the big reveal at the end is a Super Pro shows up, and I'd get super jazzed about it, but everyone else would be like, who, why? This is.
He put out like a little video teaser for this issue like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
I don't normally do this, you guys, but I really think this one's going to be nuts. And I posted that to my story, and I was like, oh, geez, this is going to be cool. Rolling my eyes like, yeah, here we go, Donnie. But I don't know about you guys, but like, I really loved this issue. And like, by the time I got to the ending of this, I had a big dorky smile on my face, and like, I had a blast reading this issue. But to get back to what you were saying before, I think the first in the first story arc, I think the best kind of Easter egg nuggets you got were just basically Easter eggs. Yeah, there was that issue 6 when the 2-page spread of like everything going bananas inside the dome, and you can see the Ninja Turtles and Hit Girl and some of the Walking Dead zombies, and it was more like, oh, I see that, I see that, I see that, I recognize that guy. That's fun. This is cool. What a crazy universe. And then they move on and they do the rest of their adventure. But in this story arc, we have spent several issues now with like the detectives from Powers, and we are kind of really getting to know these people, even if you didn't read the original comic. These are characters in the book, not just like Easter eggs that pop in and out. Like, I'm appreciating the more, I've said this several times tonight, but the more zoomed in focus and the smaller scale that this more like serial killer story arc has given us with crossover volume 2.
Yeah. And I'm curious to see where they, like you said, taking these characters that end up as cameos and like how do they flesh them out. So there's a character reveal at the end here that I think that a lot of people, whether you like the series or not, would get pretty pumped up about the character that shows up at the end, how they're going to, I don't know if we want to, even though there's spoiler warning on the bottom, how they're going to take that character and do, like, are we going to see that character do what he did to another character to Donny Cates? Or
I didn't think of that.
Ooh. I do feel like I'll be curious to see what they do, because like we said, the other reveals, they've kind of shown up for an issue and then they faded away. Like they haven't, like, this feels like a character that you could incorporate for a while with the storyline, or at least longer than you have with the other characters. And I'd be very intrigued to see what, like you said, is this character going to do some of the things that we know he does to people like Donny Cates? And that'd be pretty wild.
And I feel like this issue kind of got back to, I don't know if Chip Zdarsky got into Donny Cates' head enough where it's like Donny Cates had to rewrite or maybe go in a different direction than he originally thought. Like he had to go more meta with this issue because of what Zdarsky did. And this issue specifically, I feel like gets back to someone is going after comic book writers, which was kind of the plot from the beginning-ish. Right. So are we going to go back to that plot, or are we going to go back to the dome and what happens there? So we'll see.
I don't know, but I think for me, the real high watermark for this run so far has been in the previous issue when we're in an interrogation room with the characters from Powers, but the original creative team from Powers takes over for a few pages on the book, and Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Oeming wrote and drew those pages and that entire sequence. And if you had read Powers like I did, it just gives you this special kind of like feeling that you don't really get in any other comic.
Were you giggling the whole time? Were you like, hey?
Sure, yeah, but like it just felt like something different. And seeing the reveal at the end of this issue, I'm fingers crossed, and I think that I saw something where they said the person who created that character is going to jump on in the next issue in a similar way to Bendis in the last issue to help write. It's just a really cool collaboration that Donny Cates managed to cook up with Chip Zdarsky and with Bendis and with Michael Oeming. And I don't know. I have said it several times recently, but there's just nothing quite like crossover, and I love seeing the book develop and grow into something that it really wasn't at the beginning.
Yeah. Especially if you love Image comics, and you don't necessarily have to have read every single Image comic or every series. I will go ahead and I'm going to spoil something really quick. So the creator who, oh my God, I can't even think of his name now, but he did Invincible. So I think it'd be kind of cool to see Invincible show up too. That wasn't who we saw at the end, but can't think of the creator's name now.
Kirkman,
okay. Robert Kirkman, thank you. So a character that Robert Kirkman created ends up at the end of this, and so I think it'd be cool to bring in like the Invincible universe into this, maybe even if just for an issue, for sure.
Yeah, for me, that was one of the reasons I didn't like the beginning so much. Was it seemed like they were focusing heavily on the original Image characters like Savage Dragon,
Mm.
and I don't know, Savage Dragon's the one that stood out to me, where it's just like I don't have any connection to this person, and your mileage will vary based on which Image books you have read. But when you take a minute and think about just how many Image books have come out over the past 30 years, like the potential for this series is very, very, very wide open.
Right.
It's exciting.
Well, that's all of our weekly comics.
Yes. That was what we said we were going to talk about. And now we have our favorite cover and
Our new segment.
New segment. Try it out. Listen, the joke never gets old.
It really doesn't.
It's a gift that keeps on giving.
So yeah, I am not at home, in case you didn't notice. I don't live in.
You're never at home. You're always actually.
I'm working. I got a really busy week. I can't afford to drive back and forth. I'm here, but I had to remember to bring all of my books with me for this show. And while I was trying to think about what my favorite cover was, I went through my entire stack like 4 times, looking through the stack and just like, is this my favorite? I don't think this one. I don't really like this one. I don't really think I have a favorite, but I brought one. I think it's.
That means you have to go first.
Okay. Yeah, I just Detective Comics, the B cover. It's fine. I've picked Liber Mayhew's Detective Comic variants before for this segment. This isn't one of my favorite ones he's done recently, but it's Joker and Penguin, Harley Quinn, in some sort of prison riot scenario. It's fine. It's good. I mean, he's a great artist. It's not a bad image by any stretch, but nothing I had this week really grabbed me. Maybe I would go with the Harley Quinn, Joshua Middleton, Dark Knights of Steel variant. That one's fun. I don't know. As far as covers go, I wasn't blown away per se by really anything this week.
Jennifer, what about you?
So my cover of the week is going to be this homage cover, this Kirby homage cover for The Thing. I've been absolutely loving this series, and I think it's a 6-issue limited series for The Thing. And once again, I know I said earlier that I just fucking hate Fantastic Four, but I love Fantastic Four Life Story, and I've been loving this thing run by Walter Mosley and Tom Riley. But I'm really digging this classic Kirby homage cover here for The Thing. So that's my cover of the week. My interior artwork of the week is probably, this one's also my pick of the week, but it's going to go to New Masters. I don't know if y'all got a chance to read this one.
I haven't. I'm excited to hear.
Okay. It's basically like if you take, I feel like you take Wakanda, because it's got that like Afro-futuristic vibe, but maybe, I'm trying to find like a good splash page and I can't, but I just feel like I love the action in this. I love the colors in this. And it's done by this Shobo and Shoff. So really liking this series. Pick of the week.
The comparison to Wakanda was the reason I passed on that book.
Wow.
I don't know if that's fair, but like,
it's not fair. This was excellent.
Yeah. I think I might regret it. There's several books in the past few months that I have regretted not grabbing, and that one was on the fence for me.
I'm on the same boat as Ryan. There wasn't like a cover that stood out for me that I was like, oh, this is it. I will say, I guess like probably my favorite cover is Jorge Molina, I think is. It just is your token Batman with the villain, just menacing above him, which is the Abyss that Joshua Williams has created, and then you've got Batman, Batman Incorporated behind him. But, I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't like, oh my gosh, like you have to run out and get this cover this week, but. My interior art of the week, I'm gonna go with Primos probably, and I really love the art style. I'm looking because I have it digitally, but It really was probably, it's a cartoony vibe. Go to Jennifer because I don't have it.
Oh, yeah.
What are you looking for?
Primos.
Show
Oh,
us some
the
Primo.
Primos. That's
I
we
have
talked
it
about
digitally,
earlier.
and I'm stuck on Chicken Devil right now. Yeah, like
Primo.
the interior art, it just is a more of a cartoony vibe.
Yeah.
But it fits with the book because you have the, your young protagonist going throughout the I think it gives a really cool, who is it? Carlos does the artwork on it. It's fun. I like it.
But
So
yeah, especially for an AWA, but I don't want to say especially for an AWA book, but sometimes with the quality of AWA, sometimes with the artwork, this may look like it's X-rated, but I assure you that it's not. There's no genitalia nudity, but like even this page right here, yeah, I mean there's no like, it kind of looks like it could be, but it's not. It's all like blanked out, but yeah, the artwork for this one was pretty good.
So yeah, I dug it.
I didn't show my interiors because I forgot we do them at the.
You forgot that part of the show, but you're welcome, John. I'm glad you like my shirt.
My favorite interior art this week is from a book that I am surprised at how much I am enjoying, but I'm going with World of Krypton.
Ooh.
This is issue number 3 of 6. The interior art is by Michael Avon Oeming, the artist I was just talking about from Crossover. But you guys were just talking about cartoony art, and this is like one of the go-to artists I think of for that style. But I don't know. I think his work is really good in this story specifically. There's a lot more color definition than when he did something like Powers or United States versus Murder Incorporated with Bendis. There's a lot of stark black and almost black and white looking colors, but this book is very colorful and very splashy. I'll find a good page with, I think Zod is right here on the next page. Okay, there's just a lot happening. This book is pretty action packed and it looks very cool. I just really like the art style in here.
Nice.
World of Krypton. It's a pleasant surprise.
And that's done by Michael Avon Oeming.
Correct. And Robert Venditti writes that one.
I checked out the first one and I did love it. Do you feel like it's gotten better since the first issue and it's something that I should go back to?
She won't do it.
You won't. It's okay. It depends on your how much you like the. It's almost like Dark Knights of Steel in the way that it's a lot of maneuvering and like a Game of Thrones style family bickering and royalty squabbles, and there's fighting for the throne in here and like political assassinations and questions of lineage, like a lot of pre-destruction Kryptonian drama and a nice climate change allegory in here, which I think you and I appreciate. But it's a cool book and it's already halfway done, so I'm interested to see what happens. I'm pretty sure, spoiler alert, the planet's going to blow up at the end. So,
well, I definitely can't read it now.
No,
it's the journey that counts.
Nope, can't. So now we're at pick of the week, gang. And since John's here, I'll share my pick of the week. No, I'm just joking. It's not.
Okay, I was gonna have to kick you out of this stream.
Did you say Noctera?
I just did it because I know John loves Scott Snyder.
No, it's so funny. Sorry, because you just said Noctera. So I actually read the first volume of Noctera finally. I finished it and I didn't hate it.
Uh-oh.
And I feel like I dropped it at the wrong issue.
Did we get her on the Noctera train? Because I have a feeling Ryan and I are both about to get off it.
Oh fuck. Okay, yeah.
I'm like deep beyond more than Noctera at this point. Like
I feel like this issue made me realize this. I love the character of Blacktop Bill, and I love the idea of the story. I don't like
Scott's
execution. I think
it's his writing. It's his writing that kills me because it's a cool world, it's a cool premise, it's a cool setting, and it's a cool villain. But I think the lead character is completely worthless. Like, she has no character at all. And all of her side characters, especially now that this issue is just her and a bunch of homies teaming up in like some kind of convoy. I don't enjoy this book. Like, it was always kind of in the middle of the road for me before, but especially now, like this first arc or this first issue back after its break, I am irritated. But I'm going to keep getting it because I'm masochistic.
I'm
I'm going to jump back on the Noctera train.
I'm probably out.
Ooh.
And one because I thought because that was like I feel like Noctera and Basilic for me were both ones that I've kind of was like where I'm at. Basilic for me this week I was like I'm right back in. I loved it, and this one I'm like so. But my pick of the week it's gonna be one of the two books we've already talked about. It's either crossover or Fantastic Four Life Story, and I think I have to go with Fantastic Four Life Story just because of how it wrapped up. I loved, like you said, I mean, what we've already raved about the book, the emotion that I felt reading this book, and I have no connection to the characters very much, like I said, because mine are the two bad movies, and I forgot about that Michael B. Jordan movie. I didn't even mention it. I talked about the documentary of the other one, but I loved the conclusion. It felt like very satisfying for me, and it felt like it was an emotional punch too. So I loved it. So when you can bring a series home, and this is it, we're not getting another arc of this. I was like, yep, you wrapped it up nicely. I liked it. So I'll take that.
I think that speaks volumes about the book too, because you're not coming at it from like I love the Fantastic Four bias or whatever. You almost have an anti-bias. You're almost not into the Fantastic Four based on the experience you've had with the movies and stuff. So just seeing, especially the way this whole thing ties up with a bow, I'm going to jump right on it and say those are my two picks as well. But I will go with crossover because that was just fun.
There we go. Look at that. Gosh, Ryan, we got to stop doing comic shows together.
Yeah, let's definitely not do any other ones.
We are. Oh shoot, we are. Oh yeah. So, and Jennifer, you spoiled yours already. That you are.
It was New Masters. I really, even though Ryan, it seemed like you were kind of ho-hum on it, I really liked it. I liked the world building. I liked the Afro-futuristic vibe of it, of like it's like Wakanda, but also the Star Wars, but the first movie of the newer series. What is it? Not Return of the Jedi. Force Awakens. So like Force Awakens, but Last Jedi. And I haven't read the other book that this person is writing, Buckhead, but I've heard really good things about it. But I really like New Masters, and I love the world that it's built, and I can't wait to get more into it.
Yeah, I didn't read it. I don't have an opinion on that one, but I saw the description that said Afro future, and it just made me think of Wakanda. And I'm also just started the new Black Panther run. I didn't want to overload my plate, and I'm enjoying that run more than I thought I would. So maybe I should just expand and read.
Yeah, I think you told me last week, like, oh, you should get on Black Panther. I think you and Brandon were telling me about it, and I went to go, and I'm like, oh, issue 3 is blowing up. I'm like, I'm not. I was like, I'm not getting on that then because I'm not going to read issues 1 and 2, and then I guess they'll probably have a second printing that I could get. But
they are. I think the second printing of issue 3 is on final order cutoff right now.
Okay.
It's good, but I don't think it's like drop everything you're doing, run out, and go find it immediately good.
Well, then I'm not going to. So
yeah, get a a trade on Comixology once it goes on sale or something.
That's what I'll do.
I think that's our show, gang.
We did it, gang.
You guys got to go to bed, and I got to get back to work.
Dude, it's 12:15. It's late here on the East Coast.
Yeah, that figures though. You're a party animal. It's Friday night, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Just getting started.
Nope. Nope. Because I got 2 little ones that they're going to be getting up at 6:30 if I'm lucky. 7.
Yeah, have fun with that.
Yeah. No.
Well, it was fun hanging out, you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you. I want to say thank you for Brandon. If he's watching, thank you for taking over for me and giving the hot takes last week when I got my booster shot and was feeling like today's the first day that I feel normal after the booster shot. So.
Oh wow, that long.
Yeah. I don't know, Ryan, you said you and I got the booster shot apparently at the same I got mine at 9:30 in the morning.
I went in at like 12 or something, and I was like, I got kind of sleepy, but I figured that's just because I had a busy weekend. But like, I didn't feel anything. Like my arm's a little sore, even still. But like,
I felt miserable. But wow, I'm glad to be back.
We're glad you're back too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're gonna leave now. So we're not that
And
glad.
if you guys are late to the show, Jennifer, you got something big this weekend?
I do. Tomorrow. Thank you. I know I plugged it earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and plug it again. Thank you. So tomorrow I'm going to be talking to Rodney Barnes. Originally, we were just going to talk about the third trade of Philadelphia and Nita Ha's Nightmare blog, and maybe some other cool things. And apparently today he announced that he's going to be writing with Snoop Dogg Tales from the Crypt. And I am so gosh darn excited about that. So tomorrow that'll be on Comic Chop News. So check it out. Come hang out with us. Talk to Rodney Barnes. He's fantastic, by the way. This is our third time interviewing him. He has a wild card, and I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to it. Ryan, you got anything going on? Fun?
I got this show I'm doing with some guy about like AWA or something pretty soon.
Oh,
Weird guy on YouTube. That's
Aww.
no big deal. He doesn't really have a following or anything.
Yeah, that's right. Ryan and I we're getting ready to collab on an AWA style video because we have a love for AWA. And we're gonna share that love with you, the comic community.
The people.
When is that coming out?
The people. We're gonna give back to you. The people.
There you go. I'm glad you got that. What is it? Top 10? Are we we're ranking?
Top 10.
We're
Our
ranking.
top 10. We're gonna do our top 10 favorite AWA series.
Take your bets at what's going to be the top.
There will be prizes.
Ooh.
Then Jennifer will send you because Brian and I won't.
We're lazy. We don't mail things.
But yeah, so yeah, check that. That'll be eventually sometime next couple weeks. I've got interviews lined up for like the next 2 months. So
Actually, next week I should have a top 5 books of January video coming out.
nice.
I'm doing my second ever edited comic video. So once this Sunday passes and I'm no longer swamped with mail call work, I'm gonna try and record that / upload it sometime next week. So there's that. I do have one thing happening. So that's fun.
Wow, gang, that's it.
Hope everyone has a good night. I'm gonna hit the end broadcast button up here. So thanks for coming by, everybody.
See ya.